Welcome back to State of Charge. Today we're going to be doing a full review of the Grizzl-E Smart. The Grizzl-E Smart is a 40 amp electric vehicle charging station. It's the smart charging version of the very popular Grizzl-E Classic. We reviewed the Grizzl-E Classic here last year and it scored a very respectable 4.55 stars out of 5, and we added it to our recommended home charging station list. Will the Grizzl-E Smart do even better? Or is more less in the case of home charging stations? We're going to find out next as I do a full review of the Grizzl-E Smart, including our cable deep freeze test. We're going to go over all the features. I'm then going to add up the score on the ChargerRater, give it my personal score, average the two, and we'll see where the final score lies. But first, don't forget, click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming content here on State of Charge. The Grizzl-E Smart is a 40 amp electric vehicle charging station that can deliver up to 10 kilowatts of power. That's good enough to deliver somewhere between 25 and 32 miles of range to an electric vehicle per hour of charging. And that all depends on how efficient the electric vehicle is. Now you could also derate the power from internal dip switches to either 32 amps, 24 amps, or 16 amps. And when you order the Grizzl-E Smart, you can have United Chargers set the dip switch to any one of those power levels so you don't have to do it. But if you don't, it's really simple. You just open the front cover, the dip switches are somewhere in this area here, I've done it before, and you change them so that it won't deliver more power than what your circuit can provide. It comes with a NEMA 1450 or NEMA 650 plug configuration, but you can also hardwire it if you prefer. The Grizzl-E Smart is available in either white or black, and you can also get a matching colored connector holster. You will notice that the white Grizzl-E Smart says Avalanche Edition across the front. There's really no significance to that. It's just a white Grizzl-E Smart. There's no special features on the Avalanche Edition. And all Grizzl-E Classic and Grizzl-E Smart come with a long 24-foot cable. Now I want to make one note. When you hear me talking in the cable deep freeze test that's coming up later, I refer to the cable as the premium cold weather cable. That's because United Chargers used to have a standard cable and a premium cold weather cable that they sold for an extra $20. I noted that in my review of the Grizzl-E Classic last year. I wasn't aware that since then, United Chargers has made the premium cable the standard cable on all Grizzl-E. So when you hear me referring to it as the premium cable, it's really the standard cable that now comes with all Grizzl-E and Grizzl-E Smart. It's a thick 24-foot cable that's rated for extreme weather conditions. Now, you'll also notice that there's a 14-inch pigtail that's connected to either the NEMA 1450 or NEMA 650 plug. Now that's important that it's 14 inches. Some charging stations come with a really small pigtail to plug it in, and it doesn't give you a lot of flexibility. But you should still take into consideration the location of where you want to mount this before you install your outlet. If you want the charging station to be directly above the outlet, set the outlet at the right height and add about 14 inches to where the body is going to be, and that way it won't be too high on the wall or too low. Really doesn't matter exactly where this is located. It's more important where the connector holster is located, because that's what you're going to be grabbing, holstering the connector and removing it. So let's talk about the connector holster. The Grizzl-E Smart has a remote connector holster. This is it here mounted on the wall. I say remote because some electric vehicle charging stations have the connector holster integrated into the body of the unit. You'd plug the connector in somewhere here. The Grizzl-E Smart and Grizzl-E Classic don't do that. They have a plastic remote connector holster. You can mount there wherever you want. That's nice to have that flexibility. Some people choose to install the charging station on a wall like here, and then the connector holster on another wall next to where they pull their car in their garage, so they don't have to walk far to holster the connector and to grab it and plug their car in. Now, one of the things that I like about this connector holster, which United Chargers calls the Easy EV plug, is that it has a tapered edge around the outside. That allows you to easily holster the connector. Some connector holsters, you have to be nearly perfect to get the connector in the holster for it to lock in. And it can be frustrating, especially if it's dark out, if you have this mounted outside or your garage is dark. It's hard to holster the connector. But with the Easy EV plug, almost any way you put the connector in the holster, it snaps into place. That might seem like a small feature, but it actually is really good and makes daily plugging and unplugging a more pleasant procedure. United Chargers also sells a lock for the connector holster. What it does is it prevents the connector from being removed from the holster. This would be important if you were in a public installation. You don't want somebody using your charger on your electric. Quite often, people install these chargers in areas like parking lots for apartments or condominiums, and they're common access areas. Anybody can just grab the connector and plug their car in and charge it on your electric. So if that's the case, you can buy this little lock. It only costs $15 and lock the connector to the holster so when you're not using it, nobody else can. Talking about connectors, the Grizzl-E Smart uses the industry standard J1772 connector, which all electric vehicles in North America use, except for Tesla. But Tesla includes an adapter with every car they sell, so you'd be able to use the Grizzl-E to charge your Tesla with the provided adapter that Tesla gives you. So the Grizzl-E Smart will charge any electric vehicle that's sold in North America without a problem. The Grizzl-E Smart is safety certified, and that's important. There's a lot of budget electric vehicle charging equipment out there that is not built well and is not safety certified. So always check before you buy EV charging equipment. Make sure it's safety certified. Like the Grizzl-E Classic, the Grizzl-E Smart has an aluminum outer casing that's NEMA 4 rated. Now NEMA 4 rating is good for indoor and outdoor installations and gives extra protection against blowing rain and snow. They're going to give you a little demonstration of just how good this outer casing is in a couple of minutes, so stay tuned for that. The Grizzl-E Classic and the Grizzl-E Smart have the same mounting hardware, and they're both very simple to install. First, you have to mount the wall bracket to the wall with 3 screws that run down the center of the bracket. Try to find a stud in the wall so that way the bracket is mounted really securely to the wall. Then you attach the mounting bracket to the back of the Grizzl-E with 4 screws that are provided. You will need an Allen wrench as that's not provided, and that's what you need to screw the screws into the bracket with. Once you do that, the 2 brackets lock together, and then you slide the security pin through the hole in the back. The pin secures the Grizzl-E, but it also allows for quick removal if needed. United Chargers sells a security lock that replaces the pin for $14.95. Now you would use that if this was an outdoor installation or anywhere where you think that it's not safe and somebody could steal it, because without this lock, all somebody has to do is remove that pin and unplug it, and they can just take it off the wall and steal it. So make sure if it's in an area that's not secure, get that extra lock. It only costs $15 and nobody can take it from you. I mentioned earlier that the Grizzl-E Smart has a NEMA 4 rated outer casing, which is meant to protect it from driving rain and extreme weather conditions. So I tested that out to make sure it does protect it from driving rain. As you can see there, I am giving it a shower with my hose. I adjust the hose to give a direct blast. It may be hard to see, but what I'm doing is going around the outer edge of the Grizzl-E Smart, and I'm really blasting with a point where the front cover connects to the back of the unit, and there's a gasket there. So I'm trying to get water to penetrate that gasket from the top, on the sides, and underneath where the cables connect. Really giving it a good shot. But that wasn't good enough. I decided to take it off of the wall mount, and as you can see, I have a bucket waiting that's filled with water, and I thought I would give it a few dunks. I make sure I go all the way down to the bottom so it's completely underwater, even to the point where the cable strain connectors are. I even hold it under a little bit there at the end. And, you know, that's about as good a test as you're going to get for water. And I immediately then bring it inside. It's still dripping wet. Hang it on the wall. Loop the cable up around the connector holster, and I proceed to dry off the unit. I'm not going to plug it in while it's dripping wet. That wouldn't be a smart thing to do. I had a towel ready there, and I've had a little plastic cover for the pins on the plug. But once I dried it off nicely, I plug it into the NEMA 1450 outlet, and as you can see, the light turns on pretty much immediately. I then grab the connector and plugged in my Model 3. And as you can see on the face of the Grizzl-E, it's blinking rapidly, which means it's actively charging the car. So the Grizzl-E Smart passes my extreme weather dunk test. So it's time for everybody's favorite part of the review, the cable deep freeze test. Inside this commercial ice cream freezer, I put the Grizzl-E Smart last night. It's about 14 hours ago. This isn't a regular freezer that just goes to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a special commercial ice cream freezer, and it goes down to like -20 degrees Fahrenheit. We do this to simulate if the charging station was mounted outdoors in the winter in an area where it gets really cold, say Canada, like where the Grizzl-E is made. So, you know, what we're trying to do here is replicate what owners might come across if the charging station was outside, the car's been plugged in all night, in the morning they go to unplug it. How manageable is the cable going to be? And likewise, when they come home at night, they need to take the connector, unravel the cable, and plug the car in. If it's frozen like a frozen garden hose, it makes plugging and unplugging in the vehicle a very unpleasant experience. So let's first see how cold it is in there. Wait, I didn't get a good reading. -10.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, it's pretty cold in there. Now let's take a look and see how the cable performs. Feels pretty stiff right now, but let's see once we unravel it. You can see the frost already developing on the cable. Let's cut this guy off. Now, as always, I wrap the cable up into these tight loops, and then I want to see how well the cable will return to form. Okay, so here we go. All right, seems pretty much the same as the original Grizzl-E Classic that we tested. Now, this is the cold weather optional cable that United Charger sells. It's fatter, it's thicker, it has a tougher rubberized jacket, and it's supposed to perform better in cold weather conditions. We found that while it might be a little bit better than the average cable that we test here, it's still not great. There's some charging stations like the ChargePoint Home Flex where the cable remains rubberized and really flexible. Now that's not that bad, but you know, it is starting to warm up here in the garage. I'd give this probably a C+, somewhere around there, maybe B, as far as cold weather pliability. But you know, one of the things that United Chargers told me when I talked to them about this was that in addition to this cable supposedly remaining flexible in cold weather, the cold weather cable is also thicker and more durable. Like it can be run over with a car and the outer jacket won't crack, which I suppose is a positive for sure. You don't want your cable to crack if it gets really cold and then you run over it with a car or not. But you know, flexibility is also really important, and this is okay. It's not great, but the fact that it's a very thick cable, it's also heavy. And when it's frozen, it can be unruly. Some of the other cables are thinner than the Grizzl-E's cable, and I think even if they're stiff, they might be easier to manage. So The Grizzl-E's cold weather cable will work for cold weather conditions. There's a lot of cables that we've tested here that are a lot worse than this, but it's still, to be honest with you, I'd like to see better cold weather performance. I think it's something that United Chargers can improve on the Grizzl-E, which is a really good charging station. Every charging station we've ever tested can be improved, and I honestly think that they could do a little bit better with the cable, but this cable is good enough. If you're in cold weather area and you're going to mount this thing outside, I wouldn't recommend you not get it. I think this will work just fine in cold weather conditions, even extremely cold weather. Just understand, it's not going to be very flexible, not really bendable when it's super cold. It'll bend enough for you to use it, but you might be wrestling with it a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about what makes the Grizzl-E Smart a unique smart charger. Now, smart chargers typically are Wi-Fi or PLC connected charging stations that you pair with an app that the company that makes the charging station provides. Let's say ChargePoint Home Flex, for instance. ChargePoint makes their own app. When you install your ChargePoint Home Flex, you download the app, you connect it to the charging station, and through the ChargePoint app, you can do things like schedule charging, view past charging sessions, connect your charging station to your smart home like Amazon Alexa or Google Home Assistant, things like that. But you always pair it with the app that the manufacturer of the charging station provided to you. United Chargers has taken a different approach. They've made the Grizzl-E Smart an OCPP compliant charging station. Now, OCPP is the Open Charge Point Protocol, and that's an open source communication standard for electric vehicle charging stations and network software companies. What that means is that any EV charging station that is OCPP compliant can be configured to run on any OCPP compliant software. That way, the Grizzl-E Smart isn't tethered to an app that United Chargers makes for it. Now, United Chargers has come out with a smart Grizzl-E app. They've just launched it this month, and I fooled around with it a little bit. It's not fully baked yet, so if you buy the Grizzl-E Smart now, don't expect to have fully featured and everything works great. Now, I did talk to United Chargers. They said they're working on it. In the coming months, it's going to have more features and have more things enabled on it. But right now, it's still a little raw. They literally just launched it in August, which was a couple weeks ago. So it has a little work to be done to it. But talking to United Chargers, their attitude was, look, we're going to make the app for people that want to have an app, and we need to launch the Grizzl-E Smart with an app for people to use. But that's not necessarily how United Chargers envisions the typical Grizzl-E Smart customer to use the device. They really expect customers to go out there and seek out the software provider that they like the best. And since the Grizzl-E gives you the opportunity to choose the app, the software that you want, you're going to select something that suits your individual needs. Now, United Chargers only has agreements with 2 apps right now, AmpUp and ChargeLab, but they're just launching the Grizzl-E Smart. They expect to have dozens and dozens of software options available to their Grizzl-E Smart customers pretty quickly. So while all of the smart charging features aren't currently enabled on the Grizzl-E Smart, soon you'll be able to do things like schedule charging, start and stop a charging session, view past charging history, set up notifications. You'll be able to power share between multiple Grizzl-E units. You'll be able to participate in utility demand response programs. That can save you some money. You'll also be able to turn your Grizzl-E Smart into a commercial charger and collect payments for allowing people to use it. And that can be really useful, particularly for places like apartment buildings and other multi-family dwellings. For only $539, you can have a fully functioning public charging station that uses QR code authentication and bills the person charging your car. That's a perfect solution for applications like apartment buildings, workplace charging, and other multi-family dwellings. So that's it for the review. All that's left are our ratings. We're going to first start off with the ChargerRater, our point-based system that gives the charger a score out of 100, which we then translate to a 5-star rating. First up, let's look at the cost and value category where the Grizzl-E Smart scored a total of 17 points. That's because it is an excellent value at only $539. It is the least expensive 40 amp smart charger that you can buy today. The next category is power and weatherproof rating, and the Grizzl-E Smart scored 20 points. We then jump over to construction and durability where it scored a total of 17 points. Looking at the smart and non-smart category, the Grizzl-E Smart scored a total of 21 points. Now, it could have scored more points. We couldn't award it points for PowerShare capable and Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant capable because while the Grizzl-E Smart will have those features soon, they don't currently have them now because we don't have that software enabled. So we can't give it points for something it can't do today. However, the Grizzl-E Smart is just launching now. As I said earlier, we expect these features to be enabled relatively soon. Finally, we're going to round out the scoring with the safety, certified, and warranty category, and the Grizzl-E Smart scored a total of 18 points there. That gives us a grand total of 93 points, one of the highest rated chargers that we've ever done here on the ChargerRater. That translates over to 4.65 stars out of 5, an excellent score. We then take my own personal score and average it with the ChargerRater. I'm giving the Grizzl-E Smart 4.75 stars out of 5, making the final score 4.7 stars out of 5, and giving the Grizzl-E the highest rating we have here on State of Charge. Now, there's a number of reasons for that, but the biggest reason is probably the value. At $539, the Grizzl-E Smart is an excellent value. You can't get another 40 amp Wi-Fi enabled smart charger for even near that price. And that's important to me because I believe people shouldn't have to pay too much for home charging equipment. The Grizzl-E Smart isn't perfect. Personally, I would improve the cable. I think it's a little too thick. It doesn't perform excellently in cold weather. It's good enough for cold weather applications, but I would like to see it a little bit more flexible. I'm also not in love with the connector on the Grizzl-E. I like to have connectors that have rubberized grip, and the Grizzl-E's connector is kind of plasticky feel. It doesn't really feel like it's a well-made solid connector like you get on some of the other brands like the ChargePoint Home Flex and the Pulsar Plus. Those connectors have rubberized grip. They feel good in your hand. They feel like they're quality. The Grizzl-E's connector feels a little plasticky and a little cheaply made. I've dropped it a bunch of times. It doesn't break. It's durable. I think it'll be fine, but it's just something that I think that they can improve upon. On the positive side, it's a 40 amp Wi-Fi enabled smart charger. It's Energy Star certified. It's safety certified with the UL rating. It does the things that you need it to do, and I think that it's an overall excellent value. So that's it for the Grizzl-E Smart review. I have a link in the description of this video to my Grizzl-E Classic review. And also, if you'd like to purchase the Grizzl-E Smart, there's a link in the description to take you directly over to either Amazon where you can buy it or from the United Chargers website. That's it for the review. Thanks for watching. If you like what we're doing here on State of Charge, don't forget, please click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle and electric vehicle charging content. Thanks for watching.